I would like to thank you for taking the time to attend our education session. Our topic today is new automatic identification techniques that address product mix challenges derived from consumer buying habit changes that have occurred over recent years. As I'm sure you're aware, SICK is at its core a sensor company. We have a broad array of sensors to solve challenges in the logistics automation space. Our portfolio includes presence detection, safety sensors, motion, and identification, along with a broad array of services, including digital and safety consulting, implementation, and sensor integration. My name is Bruce Muir. I have been actively working in the logistics and factory automation field for more than 30 years. I've had just about every role possible in the material handling industry. I've been an entrepreneur, an integrator, a customer product manager, automation systems engineer, a salesperson, and a sales manager. My current role at SICK is Director of Distribution Automation. I run the sales teams who sell to the automation equipment OEMs, integrators, as well as the retail and direct sales teams. I'll be joined for the question and answer period by several industry and equipment experts who support our sales teams. Just a note about questions and answers. Please enter any questions you may have into the chat system, and we'll address them as quickly as we can. I won't spend too much time discussing what's changed. I think that's a pretty common theme throughout our digital ProMat. If you would have asked me a little more than a year ago what the industry direction was moving forward, I would have said that we had a 10-year run or so ahead of us in converting retail, traditional brick and mortar distribution into omni-channel distribution. North American consumers have been on a slow, steady climb in e-commerce buying for years. Exact numbers can vary, but e-commerce purchasing in 2019 was somewhere in the 11% of all retail purchases in the US. By comparison, the same e-commerce share in Europe was more like 30%. It was stabilizing at that level. We expected that the next 10 years or so to show a continued slow, steady climb in the US toward that European level of e-commerce purchasing. But this slide shows the domestic e-commerce trend pretty clearly. Brick and mortar sales are way down year over year in most categories, while e-commerce is way up. Interesting to note is there are some additional brick and mortar retailers that are weathering the storm quite nicely. So we had a drastic jump in e-commerce sales over the past year, all the way up to 17 to 18%. At least that's what the latest numbers that I've seen. So the conversion to omni-channel fulfillment is still happening, but it's being compressed into fewer years than the 10 or so we originally projected. Retailers are faced with a very real problem that either figuring out a direct consumer model now or concede the space to a more pure e-commerce retailer. This slide shows the overall trend considering both e-commerce and brick and mortar. You can see here that the drastic jump in e-commerce sales, as well as brick and mortar sales that are considered essential businesses, have been enough to actually see a rise in the overall retail sales. It just isn't with the traditional brick and mortar retailers. So the change has come, and we believe the new buying habits to be lasting regardless of the state of the pandemic. Traditional brick and mortar will always be part of the mix, but the balance between online sales and in-store sales has been accelerated in favor of online. If European trends are to continue to predict North American trends, this shift in balance is going to continue. So all that said, what we're shipping and how we're shipping it is changing. Automation systems within distribution centers as well as parcel shippers are shifting from large boxes of merchandise replenishing retail stores' shelves, turning into bags, envelopes, and small boxes that are bound for the individual consumer. The whole point of this session is to determine how auto ID technologies can be applied to ensure systems that can handle new volume and allow companies to thrive in this environment. So I remember a time when auto ID was much simpler. We made a box, we filled it with merchandise, we taped that box shut, we put a label on it, we loaded it onto a truck. Somewhere along the way, there were some fixed laser scanners that read the barcode and recorded what we had done. It was exciting times back then, but the pace of change marches on, and it's way more exciting now. Like everyone else, things are much more complex. The distribution center environment is filled with purpose-built equipment designed to either mechanize or automate the fulfillment process, and no two distribution operations are entirely alike. We scan inbound merchandise to reconcile against electronic receipts. We use Auto ID to sense and feed cloud-based attribute databases. We use Auto ID to move materials in and out of bulk storage, buffer storage, primary picking locations. We use it to identify and cube materials moving in and out of ASRS and shuttle systems. We use paperless and automated picking systems that require machine vision and deep learning. We integrate vision systems and Auto ID to drive robotic operations. We use Auto ID in item and shipping sortations, including things like legal for trade dimensioning, scanning, and weighing. New systems are emerging and gaining wide acceptance. These systems rely on a new breed of automatic identification to allow them to operate. Automation is allowing us to purge non-value-added steps in the fulfillment operation. Intelligent ASRS systems allow highly efficient goods-to-person systems or goods-to-robotic systems to make the absolute most of the human capital spent in a DC. Vision scanning, sensing, all enable automated machinery to singulate bulk flow of packages and envelopes without the need for human interaction. The singulated material flow is then ready for further downstream automated processing. State-of-the-art sortation systems are faster, more accurate, and more flexible than ever before. We can use the same systems to handle products of all shapes and sizes and according to operational needs and customer demands. Technology and process advancements are already driving tremendous amounts of complexity into Auto ID and fulfillment as a whole. The explosive growth of e-commerce is driving a whole new category of complexity into the market as well. We can now buy just about anything online, whether considered traditionally conveyable or not. In order to be able to process, convey, and ship these items to meet customer demands and have any hope of profitability, we've got to leverage automation everywhere we can. The new product mix paradigm can potentially drive many problems into our operations. Things like lost throughput, incorrect routing, product damage, inefficiency, service levels, customer satisfaction, and damage to our reputations are all possible if not properly equipped. Additional considerations directly related to how we handle materials include labeling variants, regulatory compliance, new types of packaging, ever-increasing handling speeds, tight spacings on systems to maximize efficiencies, increased throughput, and limited physical space all need to be considered in choosing the proper path forward. These are just a few potential problems listed here, and every day new technologies emerge. I imagine you can find a whole new list of potential considerations from the vendor innovations on display right here at ProMat. So now let's talk about how these issues can be addressed. These are the basic Auto ID functions that state-of-the-art systems can accomplish. When you envision a new automated fulfillment environment, some or all of these may be required. Traditional code reading, 1D, 2D, or radio frequency codes, static or dynamic volume measurement, capturing weight, contour inspection, seeking compliance or damage when comparing against cuboidals, classification of objects, could be box versus bag, could be carton fingerprinting, optical character recognition. We can use images captured for video coding. We can detect empty trays on a sorter or empty totes or multiple items in a tote or a sort window. And we can detect hazardous material labeling, either for compliance or for routing within a facility. If you're thinking of any other functions that automatic identification needs to address in your operation, please let us know in the comments section. Auto ID technology hasn't changed radically in the last years. However, the system configurations and the need for flexibility to leverage multiple technologies has become more common with end users of the technology. Vision-based barcode reading continues to provide excellent value and flexibility to ensure 1D and 2D barcodes can be read. Where customers have control of the data carriers, 1D labels are still the most common, and these can be read reliably with laser-based barcode reading. RFID continues to gain adoption as the cost of tags pushes lower and the use cases and ROI continue to proliferate. Many companies leverage multiple technologies in a single hybrid system to drive the most value while future-proofing their solutions. Dimensioning continues to be a key technology that adds value to customers in a variety of ways, including the ability to provide accurate legal for trade dimensions of packages as they ship through third-party carriers. Layered on top of auto ID technology, the wealth of information that is being generated by the system is increasingly being consumed by analytics software that reposes the data and provides diagnostic capabilities. It's driving toward predictive analytics. Industry 4.0 promises are being realized, and the primary output of a device, a barcode payload, host message, etc., is being supplemented and in some cases supplanted by additional information that can be derived. Deep learning and artificial intelligence are being used to solve needs well beyond the barcode. Here we're presenting some common solutions used in automation that leverage available auto ID technology to solve application challenges. We start with a high-performance track and trace system that's a combination of line scan cameras with accurate high-resolution images on all sides of the package traveling through the tunnel. The LiDAR dimensioners both calculate the length, width, and height of the package, while also providing focus data for the camera to ensure the image acquired is a high quality. The output of systems is typically a data payload of barcode information and package dimensions, but can also include compressed, full-resolution images of the package, additional information about the package regarding presence of or absence of hazardous material stickers, classification of the package shape, or even an indication of the barcode's readability or grading. Then we shift to large-scale RFID gate in the top middle where full pallets of product can pass through, recording all the tags read in the handling unit, which could be hundreds of garments, for instance, within boxes, and also give an indication of which direction the pallet passed through the portal. We also show a reading portal that is leveraging 2D cameras for barcode reading in addition to LiDAR dimensioning. The bottom row is showing a handful of additional applications, including an RFID portal to read tags that have been placed into a shipping box to verify pick accuracy. Next, you have an irregular shaped object dimensioning and reading system using LiDAR and laser-based barcode reading to capture legal for trade bounding box dimensions of large and non-cuboidal objects. Finally, we show an RFID solution for apparel, which increasingly has RFID tags sewn directly into the garment. Another handful of solutions here include simple barcode reading for totes using laser scanners in a deep freeze area, image-based reading of codes on totes, volume measurements using light grid technology positioned at a break in the belt, and we have RFID readers providing tote identification, a master data acquisition device which leverages a weigh scale and high-density light grid technology to quickly scan any object and create dimensions and weight output. Finally, we're showing a dynamic pallet measurement using LiDAR. We're going to show a short video highlighting our newest image-based code reader. Watching the systems working in action may bring a little additional clarity to the subject. Make sure to add any questions or comments to the chat for further discussion. Here we have the track and trace tunnel, capturing barcode data, 1D and 2D barcodes, we're showing a traditional side reading angle, a skew angle of 45 degrees in this example. In this case, we have to maintain a relatively large distance between packages to avoid shadowing. As you can see, if we were able to increase the skew angle, we would be able to reduce the overall gap between boxes, and we'd be able to increase the overall throughput of the system. There's a drastic effect on the overall throughput of the system as well as the footprint of the system itself. a little view of systems in action. So all of the information we collect through the AutoID process can be formatted and made available in the cloud. Maybe you want to collect item or shipment attributes. Maybe you have multiple facilities and want to compare scan and data collection rates in real time to minimize additional processing or identify best practices. Maybe you want to centralize maintenance of your most critical systems throughout the network to respond quickly to potential equipment failures or catch unrecognized codes. Are there any additional benefits that you can think of for AutoID that could be made available in your cloud? Put that in the chat and let's start that discussion. In summary, the product mix in the fulfillment center has changed forever and will continue to change moving forward. AutoID providers are working hard to stay ahead of these changes and make solutions available to increase throughput and system efficiency. As new technologies become available and affordable, we can choose the technologies we bring to bear to solve your specific distribution needs. Whatever your needs are today, make sure to keep your eye on what's coming and future-proof your systems wherever you can. Anticipate change and choose your AutoID partner wisely to make sure you have the most options available to you moving forward. Thanks again for your time, and please enter any questions or comments into the chat, and we'll answer them right away. Have a great show.